The pound buys $1.34 and €1.18. LBC weather, heavy showers for southeast Wales and southern England. Some cloud in the east, but mostly a low of 1 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Amelia Cox.
This is LBC. From Global, leading Britain's conversation with Tom Swarbrick.
5:03 the time. Very good afternoon to you. Tom Swarbrick here on LBC. This hour,
hypersonic missiles, ballistic missiles, and advanced cruise missiles, all of them will be knocked out of the air.
121 days into Trump term 2, and the president is talking about building a golden dome to protect America from missile attacks, as his big, beautiful bill is held up in the House of Representatives by actually members of his own side. Trump may have won everything, including a Republican-leaning majority on the Supreme Court, of course, but it's not all plain sailing for the president domestically. This hour, we're going to go all in, full send, as they say, on the Trump presidency thus far, with a man who was, for a while, in Trump's inner circle. Anthony Scaramucci was Trump's communications secretary for 11 glorious days, but was also involved in his election in 2016, being part of the inner circle, but has gone from having once upon a time said that he loved the president to a view far less romanticised. We are really pleased this hour to welcome the Mooch to LBC, here to take your calls and your questions about the first 121 days of Trump Mark II. You can watch us on Global Player, and we're streaming on YouTube as well. Thank you so much for coming in. It's great to have you on.
Great to be on with you, Tom. Thank you.
Can we start at the beginning? When did you first meet him? When did you think he was a force to be reckoned with? Why did you like him?
Well, I think we all meet Trump before he meets us, and so first time I knew who he was with the Order of the Deal when it came out in the late 80s. Believe it or not, I met him when I was 30 years old. I was a Goldman Sachs banker, real estate banker, and my boss took me to Trump Tower. We were looking at a deal that after the due diligence, we passed on the deal. This was when he was going through his casino troubles. He wouldn't remember that, but he would remember the 2005 when The Apprentice started. I was with CNBC, and we did a number of events together. And by the way, again, I try to be as objective as possible. In that role, he's a very charming guy. He was good to the people around him. I think we shared a table at the Robin Hood Charity Foundation dinner. Used to go to Met games, Yankee games with him.
You liked him? He was good to be with?
He's good to be with, yeah. You would like him. You would like him. You wouldn't want him to be president. You wouldn't probably like a lot of his policies, the animosity that he has towards people, and how he operates. But if you were just in a restaurant setting with him, or you were at an event with him, you'd find him to be charming. Most people do. Bill Maher, my buddy from the West Coast, had dinner with him and got that reaction. You just don't want him to be president.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you did help him become president in 2016. You campaigned with him.
I got to own that for the rest of my life.
Yeah, sure. But you're part of the campaign team.
First Wall Streeter to endorse him.
Yeah.
First Wall Streeter to join the campaign. Recruited Stephen Mnuchin in to be the top fundraiser.
Is that because you didn't know the things you now know about him, or because you saw an extraordinary opportunity to kind of get what you wanted to change about America through the vessel of Donald Trump?
All right, so I'm gonna make you my priest. Okay, we'll have a full confession here on your radio show. What I saw was a no chance for him to win, and what I saw was I was with Jeb Bush at the time. I was 30. I'm now a 30-year veteran. At that time, I was a 22-year veteran of presidential fundraising. I had worked for George W. Bush. I had worked for Mitt Romney. I was with the Bush campaign in 2016. In 2015, Trump called me and said, Bush has low energy. I mean, maybe remember these nicknames.
Yeah.
He's going to get knocked out of the race. When he's knocked out of the race, come work for me.
Right.
And I was like an insect to a light. I said, okay, I'll go do that. I didn't think he was going to win. I can tell you that nobody thought he was going to win on election night. November the 8th, 2016. Donald Trump himself was telling people he didn't think he was going to win. He was planning to come here to his golf course in Scotland, and he was getting his plane situated. And the exact quote was, "Let her have her day in the sun," with the hand movements and so forth. And he was going to disappear.
Hillary.
Yeah, Secretary Clinton. And so when he won at 3 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday, November the 9th, then the scramble started, and he was as white as this table with shock about winning. And I would say for about 36 hours, it was a very sober Donald Trump. And so I would guess by Friday he named me to the presidential transition team. There were 16 of us, and we got to work on building the cabinet and putting things together. I didn't go work for him in the beginning. I thought Priebus and Bannon were bad guys. I told him that.
Yeah.
He then called me in mid-June, said, I'm going to need your help. By mid-July, I was down in the White House. Again, the light, and this is a big lesson for people listening in, the ego drive and the pride. You know, I had something, Tom, called Potomac fever. This is where, you want to fly on Air Force One. You want to work in the White House. Maybe there's a Downing Street fever. I don't know. Thames River fever, but I had Potomac fever. You know the thing about Potomac fever? You don't even know you have it when you have it, right? But Lutnick has it now. Besant has it.
But I get it. I mean, there is, if nothing else, the opportunity to see for yourself the inside of whether it's the president in the White House or, in my case, the Prime Minister in Downing Street. What a thing to be able to have done and seen. So, but you had to leave some of the questions that you had about his personality, about his morality, about his suitability.
Listen, I have to own this for the rest of my life. It's a cautionary tale. He was doing things, and then what happens to you, you do cognitive dissonance, and you start the equivocation. Well, he said a nasty thing about the Mexicans. Well, he doesn't really mean it. He said this, he said that. And then it's like a waterfall of stuff. He's a goalpost mover. I don't know if that expression translates well here in the UK, but if you're trying to kick an American football field goal, he keeps moving the goal. You see what I mean? And so he gets nastier and meaner and nastier, and he wants to test everybody. And there's a reason why 40 of us spoke out against his re-election or his reascension to the presidency. It wasn't just me. It was General Mattis, General Kelly. I mean, everybody spoke out. I mean, everybody tried to explain to people the danger of him. Yeah. But, having said that, I work for him. I have to own that. My wife told me not to do it. My wife probably hates Trump more than Melania, or probably as much as Melania. Probably tied somewhere. But she told me not to do it, and she was right. I was wrong. But here's a cautionary tale for your listeners. I put my ego and my pride into that decision. I have a mentor of mine, maybe 10 years older than me, got offered a big job, passed on the job. I said, why did you pass on the job? He said, I met with him a few times. I said, it's not going to work for me. Passed on the job. You know what I did, Tom? I took the job. And that's something I have to own, and this is a human frailty moment for me, but at least I had the strength to have the reckoning and be more self-reflective, and then explain to people the danger that he represented. And so I helped Biden in 20. I tried to help Harris in 24.
03456060973 is the number. Anthony Scaramucci here with us until 6 o'clock on LBC to take not just my questions, but yours crucially too. John's in Hammersmith to kick us off. John.
Mr. Scaramucci, good evening.
Good to be here, John. How are you?
I'm good. I'm an American citizen. I was there during your tenure. I would like to congratulate you on the selfless devotion to duty in the manner of your exit and the individual that you helped to remove because of that. So well done for that.
Who's the individual you're referring to?
I think Bannon, right?
Steve Bannon?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, he got fired on the same day as me, but he's like such a baby. He begged General Kelly to leave a couple weeks after me. So I left on the 31st. He left on the 14th.
Well, as an American citizen, well done.
I appreciate it.
Why do you say well done, John?
He's a horrific guy is the reason why
he's a horrific guy. He's an anarchist. He's appalling. I mean, he's a tear-down guy. He's not a builder. My question...
He's all of those things, but he's also got a malevolent streak in his personality.
Yeah.
But,
John, go on, your question.
My actual question, given the situation vis-a-vis Russia versus Ukraine and the ongoing negotiations, there was a recent article in the London Times, Sunday Times, about the government intending to bring back, possibly, the Home Guard. And that would signal, to me at least, that things have got very serious. In your opinion, as a private individual or whatever you can bring to bear, do you think that the negotiations between the United States and Russia will bear fruit?
No, I'm not. I'm not optimistic about it because I think that there's a hold that Vladimir Putin has on Donald Trump. I don't know what it is. I can only speculate. It's not a PP tape. We could, that's not enough to demolish Trump.
Yep.
It has to be something way more significant than that. This is a rich guy, Donald Trump, worth billions of dollars. He's running the most successful economy. It's still the largest economy in the world. He's got the most powerful military, and yet he's kowtowing to Vladimir Putin, and he does it consistently. He'll throw out a flare here or there, guys, and say, don't do this, Vlad, or don't do that, but he doesn't really mean it. He's just trying to do that to throw people off the scent of his love affair with Putin. But I think there's compromise. And I'll just say something to you guys. On the evening of his election, November the 5th, they were running naked pictures of his wife on Russian national television.
This is 2016.
No. This is 2024,
This is the latest
November the
one.
5th, election night. Congratulations, Donald Trump, and they showed naked pictures of Milan. You can find it on YouTube. And that's signaling. They're signaling to him that they've got something on him, and they're flexing on him, and he's nervous about it. And anybody, listen, there's an expression, which I'll share with you guys. When the window's open and you hear clippity-clop, it's a horse. It's not a zebra. Okay, you don't have to overthink this thing. So, no, I'm not optimistic about it. Rubio's out there saying he's going to put sanctions on. Those will not happen under Donald Trump. We barely got the Russian election sanctions signed by Trump in 2017, and so he barely signed them. He only knew that his signing of the bill or vetoing the bill would be overridden by the Congress. Otherwise, he wouldn't have signed it.
That's
I'm not optimistic.
Incredibly good question, John. It's an incredibly serious claim that you think that somehow, the Russians have enough compromise on the president of the United States to mean that he is willing to help the Russians.
I don't think that's breaking news, though, Tom. I think that's a well-established thing. We don't know what it is, but you're telling me he just loves Russian nationalism? You're telling me that he wants to disavow the NATO alliance and rebuke every single one of our allies, which has been a storied 80-year tradition for the United States, actually going all the way back to the First World War. So we'll call it 110 years. So, no, I mean, I'm not saying anything that's breaking news.
No.
I believe it. I just don't know what it is.
Yeah. 03456060973. We're in the company of Anthony Scaramucci, the former White House Director of Communications under President Trump during his first term. He's now presenter of The Rest is Politics US, which is available on Global Player. You can watch us on Global Player too, and we're streaming on YouTube. Tom Swarbrick here, 5:16 now. Headlines, Amelia Cox.
The Prime Minister says he wants to make more pensioners eligible for winter fuel payments. Political activist Tommy Robinson has been charged with harassing 2 journalists in August last year. And inflation has risen to its highest level in more than a year, to 3.5% in April, following a series of increases to household bills. LBC weather, showers easing this evening, some light rain for southeast Scotland and eastern England, a low of -1.
LBC Travel, I'm Dave Goff. There are delays on the M1 going into town. One lane is closed for emergency repairs between Junction 2 for Five Ways Corner and Junction 1 for the North Circular at Staples Corner. It's heavy on the M25 anti-clockwise after a car broke down earlier after Junction 27 for the M11, so all the lanes are open there. On the M25 anti-clockwise, it's also very slow from Junction 13 for Staines around to Junction 12 for the M3 after a car broke down earlier. In the centre of town, Shaftesbury Avenue southbound is closed from Wardour Street to Great Windmill Street. That's because of water main work, so it's slow on the approach. On the tube, there are severe delays on the central line westbound between Epping and Leytonstone because the train's broken down. And on the train, Southeastern have cancellations between Victoria and Nunhead after an investigation earlier.
LBC. Call Tom Swarbrick 0345 6060 973. This is LBC.
It's your home, darling. Let's make it fabulous. High scoring isn't my forte, but there's no
Send a comment to LBC.
5:19 the time. We're in the company of Anthony Scaramucci, the former White House Director of Communications under President Trump. And as we speak about Trump, Trump is speaking, well, about himself. Let's take you live to the White House. He's with the South African President Cyril Ramaphosa.
Is going to South Africa. When is that going to be?
In November.
In November?
And thereafter, I hand over to you. And
yes, we have it next.
You originated the G20, so I'll hand over the baton to you.
So as we look at pictures from the Oval Office, which you've been in, Anthony, I think you must have been in a load of times with the president himself. What's all the gold about?
Many things, and some of the things
this is he's like President Liberace, right? I mean, like, he loves the gold in a way that, like, no one. I mean, it's if you go to his apartment at Trump Tower, it's like Louis XIV smoked crystal meth and then decorated the apartment. You've never seen anything like this. So, I think it's interesting. He wasn't willing to do that in Trump 1. And so he was a much more cautious leader in Trump 1. He had a lot of establishment people around him, but they've evacuated. And now Trump 2 is about letting Trump be Trump. Trump 1 was like, okay, the guy's nuts, let's control him. See what I mean? Now it's like, okay, there was a MAGA purity test to get into the cabinet. And I think the Oval Office reflects what he's doing with the presidency. It's his presidency. It's his house. That was the people's house. But in his mind, it's his house. He's going to pave over the Rose Garden. He's going to build a ballroom.
He's going to have a jet delivered to him by the...
that's not going to happen. I'll bet money on that one.
Do you think Elon Musk is going to leave the White House?
Well, he's already out. I mean, he said to the Qataris at their investment forum yesterday that he's done with the political donations, not going to make any more of those. He's lightly touching Doge now, but he's gone back to his businesses. And, it took about 12 weeks or so, but he's more or less out of the situation. But he has significantly damaged himself, Tom. Just 30 seconds on Musk stats. When the Model S came out, people were asked, do you know Elon Musk? 71% of the Americans above the age of 18 said, yes, we know him. Do you have a positive opinion of him? 70% of those people said yes. So 49% of the Americans liked Elon Musk. He was our Tony Stark. Today, 91% of the people know him. He has a 67% negative approval rating. So he's really hurt himself, and he's hurt his brands. And I'm going to use the Dr. Evil thing here, put my finger. He's lost $100 billion working for Trump. And by the way, he thinks Trump is an imbecile, and I'll just give you evidence that. He put out a tweet on Peter Navarro saying that he was as dumb as a bag of rocks, and he's sorry to the bag of rocks. But if you look at Trump's fingerprint and Navarro's fingerprint on trade, they're identical fingerprints. It was a way for him in his on the spectrum sort of a way to hit Trump for the trade situation that has hurt most American companies.
Did you see Trump being a dumb guy? Did you think he was a dumb guy?
He's not a dumb guy. No, this guy is not a dumb guy. This guy is incredible. You can't get to the White House being dumb.
No.
He may have a learning issue. He may not be a great reader, but he assimilates information aesthetically. He's actually a very good listener, better than people think. And he's got good political instincts, probably top-tier political instincts. Definitely not a dumb guy, but he is a malevolent guy. He wants to harm people, and he wants you and I talking about him. The two things that motivate Trump are attention and money. And those are the two things.
Let's get your calls. Simon's in Southampton. Simon.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
Mr. Mooch.
How are you, Simon?
I'm good. It's actually quite humbling to speak to you. But anyway, look, I'm absolutely sick and tired of bad people being rewarded. And I was banking on Trump spending the rest of his life behind bars. And then this happened. So my question is this. When this is all out of the way and done and dusted, if he ever does leave the White House, what are the chances of him in the future getting his comeuppance that he deserves and ending up in prison for the rest of his life?
Such a great question. And so I'll be brief on this, Simon, but I will just say this to you. He's pushing the envelope very hard. He says we're in a golden age, and I think we are in a golden age. It just happens to be
in a golden White House.
It's a golden White House, but it happens to be the golden age of corruption. And so he keeps pushing the envelope harder and harder. He's now running the risk if he loses the midterms, if he lost the House, harder for him to lose the Senate. But if something catastrophic were to happen to the economy, he loses those two chambers. He gets impeached, he gets convicted, and there will probably be tribunals related to the level of rampant corruption. So I'm optimistic at the bare minimum that the system of the government, the lobbying community, America's large corporations will contain him. I'm not necessarily saying
so. Not the cabinet, not his aides, not the advisors.
They're all in the tank for him.
The bond market containment.
Like I said, they have bond market containment. Yeah. Lobbyists, remember, the American CEOs won't say anything bad about Trump, but they're lighting up the lobbyists with dough, and they're saying, go to the Congress and tell them to make Trump stop this, or I'm at an automotive company, get me a carve out on this tariff or that tariff, and so the system is going to work to stop him. So I'm optimistic about that. I'm not optimistic that he ever goes to jail, frankly, because he's an American president. I think it'd be very hard for the country to put whatever you think of him. And I'll just be brief on this, but just so you know, Teddy Kennedy, the former senator, now deceased, said that that Jerry Ford made the right decision to pardon Nixon. He didn't think so at the time. He wrote this in 2009, 35 years after the pardon. You don't want to create a kangaroo court banana republic system where we're jailing each other because there are political adversaries. Even if he deserves to be jailed, he most likely will not be.
I want to ask you something Watergate related in a few moments. Let's get to Brenda in Leeds first. Brenda.
Oh, hi. I was just wondering, when Trump raised the tariffs to ridiculous levels, one of the theories I had on my social media was that he was going to raise the tariffs and then the bottom would fall out of the market. Then investors, rich investors, would go in and buy at ridiculously low prices. And then he would then abandon the tariffs, or not abandon them, but significantly lower them again. So basically, the rich got richer. And I think there was a little clip at some point on TV of Donald Trump pointing to people and saying, he made this million, he made this million.
Yep.
And I'm wondering, I know that a lot of the commentators are saying that he's backed down. I'm wondering if, in your opinion, that it was something that he saw that could make probably himself and his family richer. I just wondered what you thought.
These are great questions. This is more fun than the White House press corps.
Hey, I've got lots of good people listening to this
these are great
show,
questions.
a lot of good people.
So what I would say, I would say that there was some of that. There's probably exaggerated forms of that being shared on social media, but where I say there was some of that was his friends were trading the market. You could see it in option activity. You could see it in insider trading activity.
DJT on the tweet. When you put DJT, which is also the name of the stock market banding for DJT.
Yeah, it's the name. It's the name of the Truth Social. And so yes, I do think they're trading the market. I think that's part of the inside track of the corruption, this sort of insider trading. But I think the most interesting thing is that it stopped, and it stopped primarily because of the bond market. There was such a bone-crushing move in the bond market that I think it was going to force Besant's hand to resign.
But what was it?
And I don't think Trump could have survived that politically in the short term. That's why he pulled back.
What was the Carville quote?
He wanted to be reincarnated as the bond market.
You got it.
But these are great questions, and so you're inside the bandwidth of the truth. I just think it got stopped by the overarching activity in the bond market that froze Trump out of the situation.
Let's get to Helen before the 5:30 headlines. Hi, Helen.
Oh, hello. Hello, Anthony. It's amazing to speak to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen.
Hello. Now, mine's actually a very fickle question. I've been waiting for this hour all day. If I'd had an appointment, I would have cancelled it. I love Donald Trump. I was so excited at the election night. I was leaping about the house when I realised what was actually happening, because I just have always found him so entertaining and funny. He makes me smile. He makes me laugh, even in the darkest moments of my own. And I kind of nothing political at all. The Coca-Cola buzzer, is it true? Is there actually a buzzer on his desk in the White House?
That's totally true. There's a box, and there's a red button on the box, and this is the part. Remember, there are 80 million people that voted for him, And so there are people that like him. I don't like the policies. As I mentioned, if you heard the early part of the show,
I've been listening to everything you've said.
So there's a charm about him.
In jail.
But if he took you into the Oval Office, he would say, "See this button? This is the nuclear bomb button." Then he'd start pressing it. And of course, the valet would come in with a Diet Coke for him, and that was a joke inside the White House.
It's a good question, Helen. The first time I met Trump when he was president was at the G20 in Hamburg in, can't remember, 2017, perhaps 2016, and I was amazed.
17.
17. I saw him. He walked past. He walked into the room where we were having this meeting, and he comes in, and all the cameramen and all his team, Yankee White carrying the nuclear football comes in behind him in full suit. And then there's a waiter running in behind him with a silver tray and a little doily and a tiny little bottle of Diet Coke. It's everywhere then. You can't keep it on.
He's a big Diet Coke drinker.
He's not an alcohol drinker.
Well, I think the reason why he's a vigorous 79-year-old, this is a health and beauty tip for everybody out there. If you don't drink and you don't smoke, and he doesn't do either of those two things, you can eat a lot of McDonald's French fries and be just fine.
03456060973 is the number. Half an hour in the company of Anthony Scaramucci, the former White House Director of Communications. More of your questions to him. You can watch us live on Global Player and YouTube as well. After the 5:30 news headlines now, Amelia Cox.
Sir Keir Starmer has signalled a partial U-turn over the government's decision to cut winter fuel payments for all but the poorest pensioners. The Prime Minister has told MPs that as the economy improves, he wants to look at widening eligibility. GCHQ has warned logistics and tech firms to take precautions against a campaign of cyber attacks by Russia. The National Cyber Security Centre says those that deliver assistance to Ukraine are particularly at risk. And it's emerged friends who were in Tenerife with teenager Jay Slater haven't been part of his inquest as police can't find them. The 19-year-old was found dead in a remote national park on the island last July. LBC weather, showers easing this evening, some light rain for southeast Scotland and eastern England, a low of -1.
Weekdays from 7 a.m.
Just accept we need stop and search.
Straight to the point.
This is a shocking night.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC.
When was the last time your party was in touch with the electorate?
Listen on Global Player or the new LBC app. Download it now from your app store. LBC. Tom Swarbrick on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
5:33 the time. So interesting to listen to Anthony Scaramucci, his thoughts about Trump first term, which he was involved with for a bit, and then Trump as he sees him now, and taking your calls until 6 here on LBC. Dave is in Broxbourne. Hi, Dave.
Tom, thank you. Anthony, I really appreciate your commentary and putting your head above the Republican parapet. My question is more around the future. On the basis we're going to have 3.5 years of potential madness, what do you think is the next plan for the Republican Party sort of 4 years out? And are you going to be part of it?
Well, so, again, these are awesome questions. So I think that it 3.5 years out, unfortunately, in politics, I think Tom can tell you this is like 500 years.
Sure.
We're going back to the Renaissance, right? So I don't know what happened, but it could break a couple of different ways. If the presidency starts slipping or starts failing, or we go into a steep recession, it could deeply impact that MAGA populist movement, a result of which there might be an opportunity for a more traditional Republican, perhaps somebody that can revise or have a revision for the party to peek their heads out. If Trump makes it through the term, he's young and vigorous, in my mind, at age 79. I think Vance will be out of the picture because he decimates every single person that's inside of his orbit. Think of what he did to Mike Pence.
Yeah.
So I think Rubio and Vance, who are being targeted as favorites, will be long gone from the landscape the way people like Nikki Haley and Mike Pompeo are. So there will be an opportunity for somebody. I think if you're asking me if I'm running for president, I'll just tell you this frankly. I'm just running for re-election in my marriage. I'm just trying to stay married. Okay, so
and that's a tough vote. That's a tough vote.
And as far as that, I could be term limited by my wife.
Exactly.
So it's something I got to campaign for every day. But I will be a part of it on the Republican side if it's not the MAGA people.
It's a really interesting question because a lot of people are talking about, and Trump I think himself has alluded to, possibly going again unconstitutionally for a potential.
Yeah, he won't
third
do
term.
that.
No,
I predict that he will not do that. He said more or less he would do, but if this was a 50-year-old Donald Trump, look out.
Yeah.
But this is going to be an 82, 83-year-old Donald Trump, and I don't think even the Republicans. They may say they want that. People like Bannon, this malevolent Bannon, would say that he wants that, but they don't want that.
Yeah, Bannon says definitely Trump will go again.
Yeah, but he's not gonna.
Dave, thanks for the question. Here's Eileen, and you call her in Lowestoft. Hi, Eileen.
Hi.
Your thoughts?
Right. You want my question?
Yes.
Well, it's rather an odd one, and I'm wondering what Mr. Scaramucci's thoughts are on the assassination attempt, and I say allegedly because I will always use that word, made on Donald Trump when he was running for president last year, when two people may well have needlessly lost their lives. A young man who I feel was set up and another man who lost their lives. I don't think it was. My feeling was not an assassination, a true assassination attempt. And I think he played the old trick that actors use where they have a vial of fake blood in their hand, they press it to their ear and wallop, you got blood. That's my thoughts on it. So
all right. Well,
that's my question.
Yes, I thank you. Eileen, we know which side of it I think you'd fall down on yourself. What did you make of that assassination attempt, the shot to the ear?
So I think that ascended him to the presidency.
Definitely.
I think that picture was a memorable picture. I think you guys know I do a podcast with Katty Kay. We did an emergency podcast, and we said that picture was going to be a seminal moment for him. And remember this about that assassination attempt. An hour after the attempt, Elon Musk took to X and said, I wholeheartedly endorse Donald Trump. He flew to meet Donald Trump. He gave, and this is a federal election committee accuracy, $290 million to the campaign through these political action committees. I know that's an unusual thing because it doesn't happen like that here in the UK. But then he worked for him, and he used that $44 billion megaphone to help him. So I can't assess, and what I always try to do on my podcast, I always want to do here on this radio show, if I don't know something, I don't even want to speculate about it. I find it odd that the ear healed the way it did. If a bullet whizzed by him, the Secret Service first said that it didn't. Trump went after them hard, and then they revised the fact that a bullet whizzed by him. But if you look at his ear, it's fully healed. Excuse me, a bullet of that size and that magnitude coming out of that chamber would have done way more damage to the ear. So there's a lot of speculation about what happened.
It could well be that he was shot at something. Something was hit. The ricochet caught a bit of shrapnel and it went through his ear, and maybe there was some truth bending going there. No doubt, people died, and there was a shooter, the shooter fired. So in that sense, I don't know that there is much of a conspiracy there. But Eileen, thank you for the call. Tony is in Enniskillen in Northern Ireland. Tony, hi.
Hello, Tom, and ciao, Anthony.
Ciao.
Can I just...
Ciao, Bello.
Oh, thank you. Can I just say, the chemistry between you and Carrie Kay is brilliant. I love your show on the other. I don't know if Tom allows me to mention that.
Oh, yeah, you can talk about the podcast.
What about my chemistry with Tom, though? How are we doing? Are we all right, me and Tom? Or no?
He's not as witty. He needs to lighten up a wee bit.
He's not as witty, yeah. Also, he's got to start dyeing his hair. I mean, Caddy has a golden blonde. I mean, Tom could use a little Latin American dictator brown. I think it would straighten him right out. But I'm sorry, what's your question, sir?
I'll leave the room while you two discuss my appearance. Tony, your question for the mooch, please. Gosh.
Sure, yeah. When Trump got re-elected, Anthony, there's a slight wee bit of anti-American sentiment, and it shouldn't be like that because obviously not everybody's, a MAGA sort of type supporter, but that's that feeling passes through. And I'm just thinking, the new Pope Leo, he's American. Is he the perfect foil or antidote to Trump? Will he prove to be a perfect foil to him?
I hate keep saying great question, but these are great questions. And so the Pope is actually a very interesting guy. I have the opportunity to have some insight into him because I'm a Roman Catholic, practicing Catholic, sort of worked on the renovation of the St. Patrick's Cathedral, have a lot of Catholic friends that know the Pope. I would say that the Pope is going to be a great healing force. And I will just say something very quickly about this. The Vance situation, if you notice, sir, Vance went to see Pope Francis, and then he flew over there for the inaugural Mass. Why is he doing that? He knows he's on the wrong side as a Roman Catholic, and you have 50 million Roman Catholics in the United States above the age of 18, 32 million of which are registered to vote. And in our church, if the Pope turns on one of these candidates, it could cost him the election. This is why Vance is keeping the move on. And I think the Pope, if you go back through his Twitter feed or some of his writings, is very anti-MAGA. And so, yes, and remember, Joseph Stalin once said, what of the Pope? He has no armies. But he didn't meet John Paul II, who worked with Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan to bring down the Iron Curtain. So I think the Pope is going to be a formidable force. And I'm very, very proud that he's an American Pope, and I think he's going to do a great job.
It was interesting, too, that one of the suggestions for where the Russia-Ukraine talks could happen from Trump was at the Vatican.
Yeah, see, they're
leaning in.
Yes, they're leaning in. They also know that they upset the Orthodox Catholic community by putting out that AI image of Trump. I would just say this to you. Imagine
Trump dressed as the Pope.
Dressed as the Pope. But I would just say to you, imagine, guys, that he did something like that related to Allah or related to Muhammad. And think about the reaction. There would probably be a fatwa against him. But the Catholics that are Orthodox really did not like that, which is why Vance has showed up a couple of times and why Trump is considering these ideas about getting closer to the Vatican.
And that's the political sense that you were talking about earlier. When we say, is Trump stupid, is he dumb? Your knowledge of him, you're working with him, he's not stupid. He has political antenna. And that political antenna, I have to tell you, I think is unbelievably strong.
No question. I think remember, he was a reality television star. 18 months later, he's in the American presidency. He loses the presidency. He's indicted in 3 different major cases. He's convicted as a felon. He returns to the presidency. And remember what he did last fall. He went on all those podcasts. You can't win the American presidency without being a risk taker. The vice president, she was not a risk taker. Wouldn't go on Fox. Wouldn't do the bro podcast like Rogan. And so you have to give Trump credit for his political instincts. Now, I call Trump the Napoleon of the culture war. He can see the battlefield better than the Democrats, and he knows how to trigger them. And when you send AOC and Bernie off to do these rallies, he's laughing because he knows the country's not that far to the left. But I would submit to people, who is the Wellington? Who is the Wellington on the Democratic side that can understand the fight and bring the fight back to Trump and his MAGA minions?
I want to get into the Democrats in just a moment. First, Nora is in Hoylake on the Wirral. Hi, Nora.
Hi. Hi. Can I just say, you sound like a thoroughly decent guy.
Oh,
So I'm
thank
really,
you.
really.
Well, that's after the reinvention, Nora.
You
Come
know,
on.
come on. If I didn't go into
okay.
politics, you probably would have liked me. They tar and feather you once you're in politics. But thank you,
Well, you
Nora.
tell that wife of yours. She's very lucky to have you.
Oh, I'm going to tell her that, Nora.
Loving.
All right, put this guy Tom on mute. Control room, put this guy on Tom on mute. It's me.
Unbelievable.
It's me and Nora
You've
here
tapped
now.
up Tony and Alice Killen. and
Welcome
now
to the
Nora's
Nora
fallen
and
under the
Anthony
trap.
show. How are you,
Right,
Nora?
Nora,
Get this
Nora,
guy Tom
I'm
on mute.
okay, thank you.
All right,
Yeah.
what's the question, dear?
Right, the question is a little bit controversial. Just there was an interview with Musk. I think it was Rogan or him, and he said it was just before the election was called, and he said quite a long time before the results had come through, he looked at his phone. He said, "Oh, that's it. He's won. I've got to go," and stood up and left. So, how did he know that? And then later on, Trump made a speech, during a rally, and he said, "Oh, India's a genius. This guy knows everything about these machines." And nobody's ever questioned that. It's never been made anything to it. But is there any malevolence there? Is there any?
So again, I like the assassination. It's a little outside of my realm. But there's a guy by the name of Krebs who worked for Homeland Security. If he was on the show with you guys right now, he would explain to you that there's very minuscule fraud in these elections. And the notion that they use Starlink to corrupt the system and to switch votes and things like that, it is very, very unlikely. Yeah. I mean, listen, I know everything is possible in life. 31% of the Americans below the age of 30, if they're white males, they don't think that we landed on the moon. I can tell you we did land on the moon, and we have tremendous amounts of verification. You can even ask Grok, okay, which is tied to the conspiracy hellhole of X. We did land on the moon. So I don't think there was fraud in the election. I can also tell you that I had internal polling data the day before on the side of the Democrats, and they were very, very worried. And remember, he only won by 300,000 votes. He makes it like he won by a landslide, which fuels that idea, but he really only won by 300,000 votes in those areas. So sometimes you can get a lead on exit polling, and it can make you very confident. I can tell you, I was on the air with Alistair and Rory and Dominic Sandbrook and Marina that night. And when I got the data from the Democrats,
you could see
I could see that they were going to lose by about 6 o'clock in the evening. So I want to clear that up for you. I don't think there was fraud, to be totally candid.
Right. I appreciate the call. Thank you very much indeed. In a few moments' time, I'm going to dye my hair, become funnier, and change my name to Nora to keep this thing going.
All right, well, you may have to do that. Let me tell you, you can come to my colorist in New York. Okay? I have a great colorist. We'll straighten you right out.
Anthony, more questions to Anthony Scaramucci, former White House Director of Communications. After the 5:46 news headlines on LBC, Amelia Cox.
The Conservatives say the Prime Minister's suggestion he could U-turn on winter fuel payments is desperate. Logistics and tech firms in Britain are being urged to take urgent defensive action over a new Russian cyber threat. And Tommy Robinson will appear in court next month after being charged with harassing 2 men in August last year. LBC weather: showers easing this evening, some light rain for southeast Scotland and eastern England, a low of -1.
LBC Travel, I'm Dave Goff. It's very slow on the A5, Cricklewood Broadway going out of town. It's partly blocked at Rondeau Road because of an accident. In the centre of town, Shaftesbury Avenue southbound stays closed between Wardour Street and Great Windmill Street for water main works. On the M25 anti-clockwise, it's taking about 20 minutes to queue to the Dartford Tunnel from junction 2 for the A2. On the M25 clockwise, it's stop-start for around 20 minutes to junction 15 for the M4. On the A13 going out of town, it's taking about half an hour to go from Canning Town through to Lodge Avenue embarking. On the tube, there are severe delays on the central line between Epping and Leytonstone westbound because a train has broken down. And also on the train, South Eastern have no service between Blackheath and Charlton. That's because of engineering works.
Coming up at 6 on LBC Tonight with Andrew Marr.
Almost the government's first action was to take the winter fuel allowance away from 10 million pensioners. Today, they've had second thoughts, but too late?
Tonight with Andrew Marr on LBC. Call Tom Swarbrick 0345 6060 973 LBC.
Amazon offers term time working to their employees, like Anton, who's home to
Jobber is a new caller in Gravesend. Hi, Jobber.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
My main thing was I'm neither a fan or hater of Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And during the election, I think was able to get his concept and sell his concept out to the public. And I don't think Kamala was able to do that in terms of her policies, just getting out to reach people. And even looking at myself, I probably would have voted for him. But
Mm-hmm.
the way he's executed his concepts, most would not have voted for him. So my question is, what could have Kamala done? For example, like Mun said earlier, she didn't go on the right-wing shows. She didn't really put herself out there to defend her ideas. So what can the Democratic Party learn going forward, or anyone else coming after Trump, to prevent a far-right government in America?
Well, I mean, the best thing that Donald Trump has going for him are the Democrats. They're in disarray. They're in civil war. We've learned from Jake Tapper and his co-author that the president was cognitively impaired. It's quite obvious, but there was a cover-up to that. And so what I would say to you, if I were a Democrat, I'm not a Democrat, but if I were, open the tent. Bring more people in. Make it a pro-democracy, pro-America party. But they won't do that. They're too self-righteous. They fight with each other over policy rather than uniting with each other over purpose. And so if they did that, they united over purpose, they could take on the MAGA team, but they'd have to grow the party, and they have to take risks, and she wasn't willing to take them.
Yeah.
And so those are the big things I would do to change it. Really good question.
The political advert during the last election, Kamala Harris is for they, them, Trump is for you, is one of the most effective political adverts possibly of my lifetime. On President Biden.
The transgender ad was even more effective.
Yeah.
And by the way, there were 4 or 8 people that were transgender that played in women's sports. Trump made it like it was a national nightmare. And you see what I mean about being the Napoleon of the culture war? He spent hundreds of millions of dollars on those ads, triggering people that were center-right conservatives.
Sure. You've talked about this book is out or coming out in the United States, and here about the inside story as told by some White House officials on the Biden health element and what was going on in the White House when Biden was president about his health. You've said that this is a scandal as bad as Watergate.
Yeah, no
Why do you
question.
say that?
Because it's a deafening situation. They've hurt themselves so badly with their arrogance and their lies. And so Trump is like a machine gun liar. He told 30,000 lies in the first term. He's on track to tell 40,000 lies. So I don't know. He's like the David Beckham is a great point scorer. This is like the David Beckham of lies, right? So I would just tell you that they told the big lie, the atomic bomb lie, that Joe Biden was okay. He was just stumbling a little bit here or there physically, but he was mentally acute. And that was a very, very big lie. And it's going to cost them the way it cost the Republicans Watergate.
Which is a big claim, that it's this.
Yeah, well, they're look at their approval ratings. Their approval ratings are going like this. I mean, Trump's got them right now, unless they have some masterful turnaround. He's got them for the midterms.
I mentioned the fact that the president, as we speak about the president is actually in the White House in the Oval Office hosting Cyril Ramaphosa, the South African premier. And not that we've been listening in intently to it, because we've been in your company, Anthony, but there has been a bit of a confrontation in the White House again between Ramaphosa and Trump. Trump accusing South African policy of being genocide on white people. Just dive in, because this is still going on. I mean, this has been going on for nearly an hour now.
To Australia in a smaller number, but we have thousands of people that want to come into our country, and they're white farmers, and they feel that they're going to die in South Africa, and it's a bad thing. Yeah, please.
So this is now. I would put it to you, Anthony, that this is a concerted policy of the Trump administration to, when they get a leader into the White House they disagree with, they hit them hard, they ambush them, they have the media there, whether it's Zelensky or Ramaphosa now, making all kind of charges, and that's the story, that's the show. Agree?
Yeah, exactly. He's a reality television producer. He's doing one press gaggle a day inside the Oval Office. Again, he didn't do that in Trump 1.
Yeah.
Somebody like John Kelly would have stopped that. But he wants the circus. He wants the attention. He wants you and I talking about him. He wants our listeners to talk about him tonight at their dinner table. And so what do you do when you're a reality star? You have drama, and you have conflict, and you have a scripted setup. And the best guy that handled them the best, Starmer did a good job, by the way. He flattered him. He handed him a letter from the king. The guy loves the monarchy. God bless him. Starmer did a good job. But the best guy by far is Carney. Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada. He wouldn't take the call from Trump unless Trump addressed him as Prime Minister. And in the post-communique, he addressed the country as Canada. Any nonsense about governor or 51st state, he would not take the call. They had to agree with that before he took the call. And when he showed up in the White House, he had the same conditions.
Yeah.
And then he was polite to Trump. And he was like, in a conflict situation like this, he would have figured out a way to get out of the meeting. But what the South African premier has done here, he didn't plan the meeting right. And so if you're a leader listening in, not that there are, but if there were, you got to plan the meeting with Susie Wiles and Marco Rubio, and you got to say these are the guidelines. And I'm getting out of the Oval Office without an ambush, or I'm not showing up in the Oval Office. And Carney did that.
Same for the phone calls too, though, right? I mean,
Same for the phone calls.
You must
Same
have
for the
been
phone
on
calls.
the other side of the phone calls that
no
Trump
question.
had when I was the other side in Downing Street. So you heard the.
Well, he liked Prime Minister May.
Yeah. Well, he was the same person on the camera as being bombastic and over the top and hyperbolic. He was the same on the phone. There was no difference.
No question. But I know we're running out of time, but just 30 seconds on
Sure.
Theresa May. So when I got to the Oval Office, we were sitting with Trump at the Resolute desk. I looked up at the ceiling, and there's a plaster power seal of the presidency. I looked over at Trump. I said, come on. I said, well, you're from Queens. I'm from Long Island. Can you believe we're in this office? And Trump said something very human. He said, yeah, I was nervous the first time I sat behind this desk. And then I got a call from White House protocol, and they say, you have your first state visit coming up. It's Prime Minister Theresa May. And he said, okay, really? So you got to greet her at the North Portico. He looks at me and goes, where the hell is the North Portico? Like he didn't even, he didn't know the...
Sure.
And it was very human. Okay, so don't mistake him for not being human. If you dislike him, he's a human being. He's got his flaws. But there's also a charm to him that led 70 or 80 million people to vote for him. So you got to beat him. You got to be Wellington to his Napoleon.
And that was the thing that was reflected in an earlier caller, that he might not have liked him, Trump. He didn't, agree with everything. But certainly based on the offer that the Democrats put out last time, had he had a vote in the American election, he'd have voted for Trump.
Well,
and I think many people would be like
10% of the people said that. So 10%, but remember, they were seeing Trump 1, which was a containment with the Republican establishment. Trump 2 is uncontained, full-force MAGA. And again, this would never be happening in Trump 1. John Kelly would have stopped that. He said, he's coming in. They're going to have a private meeting. There'll be 2 minutes of press gaggle and a photograph. We're not going to run a reality show out of the Oval Office. It's disrespectful to the institution of the presidency.
Terrific to have you on. Really, really
Great
grateful for your time.
Tom.
We didn't even get to talk about crypto.
I'm gonna text you the hair color that I'm using. I'm going to text you.
Thank you.
You can't buy it on Amazon, though. It's expensive stuff.
I just want you to know that. And you will have to come back on the programme as well, because I know a lot of people have enjoyed it. And
good to be on with you
those
guys. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time today. If you missed any of today's show, you can listen back on Catch Up on both Global Player and the LBC app. You can stay up to date on the top stories and opinion. Put your news categories in the order you want. Pause and rewind live radio and listen to a range of podcasts. Download the official LBC app for free from your app store now. I'm off for my colouring. Coming up at 7, it's Ian Dale. Next Tonight with Andrew Marr.
Thanks, Tom. Well, it was a long time coming, but perhaps better late than never. The government, Keir Starmer confirmed today, is to U-turn on its hugely unpopular restriction of the pensioners' winter fuel payment. It won't happen till October, and we don't know the details, but this is, make no mistake, a big moment in the story of this still young government.